I'll move those apologies get accepted. Seconded by Councillor Bryan. All in favour? Yes, thank you. Conflicts of interest. Have you got any conflicts of interest? We have no conflicts of interest. Confirmation of minutes. Got somebody to move. Councillor Bryan, seconded Councillor Redmond. Matters, put that all in favour? Okay. Matters arising from minutes. No matters arising. Okay. We'll move on to deputations. We have got a deputation, but it looks like Mr. Free is not here at this stage, so we'll just hold that till later on. So we'll go on to reports, which is 5.1. Proposed scope and time frame for Oxford wastewater. Who's leading this?
Look, I'll lead it since we don't have anyone else here to do it.
I think.
So it was supposed to be Caroline Fahy.
Caroline.
Oh, Caroline, you're right.
Sorry, I lost the phone. Sorry for the late. Good morning, councillors. The purpose of the report is to seek approval from the UNR committee for the proposed scope and time frame for the Oxford Wastewater Treatment Plant project to enable council to make a decision about the long-term strategic option for the Oxford wastewater scheme. So what we presented a workshop to council a few months ago. We ran you through what we were thinking in terms of the project, and that's basically to align the consent expiry on August 2031, making sure that we have compliant treatment options available at that point when the consent expires. So we're proposing to carry out some investigation work in the next year to enable council to make a decision by December 2025, so that we can go out to community for consultation about the option and also the funding rating impact on the community for the Oxford wastewater scheme. Happy to take questions about the report.
Questions? Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Caroline. I'm just interested in that bigger picture of how it works here, aligned to our consents for our ocean outfall and our works down here, which is 2035 or something as well. So if we do some works here, but we're strategising what we need, an outfall down here and sewage treatment, are we going ahead with something that that might have to be revisited in several years' time?
So the consent for Oxford expires in August 2031. So before then, we will need to have a decision for Oxford. Either it's the upgrade of the existing wastewater treatment plants, or actually installing a pipe to pipe it through to the ocean outfall for discharge. So either of those options would ensure that Oxford community have a compliant wastewater system.
Yeah, so I suppose just to be specific, Mr. Chair, that we wouldn't have to undo anything, say, from several years' time that we're doing now, because we've reconfigured things down.
No, that will not be the case. So the only consideration is the ocean outfall consent expires in 2039, and at that stage we will need to renew that consent for disposal of the wastewater effluent from all of Eastern District. And if Oxford is part of Eastern District at the time, it would just be considered as the same. So I don't think there will be additional work as such.
Thank you. Question from Bea Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It sort of follows on from Councillor Fulton and Caroline. Thank you for the report. I just wonder, I think I've asked this before, whether it's worth us considering when we have a government that has announced fast-track legislation. I did ask the Minister whether something like ocean outfalls where councils have consents in place, and there's certainly been indication from some partners that achieving those consents may be more difficult in the future, maybe, whether it's worth us considering in the scoping of whether we bring that process forward and utilising the fast track process if we felt it needed. Not advocating that we do it, but at least that we've considered it. And maybe given this work that's proposed, maybe this would be a good time to scope that and see whether that's something we should potentially explore. I'm wondering if either yourself or Jared wish to make some comment to that.
Look, yeah, that is a good question to ask, and we can definitely make that part of our scope. So part of the consideration of the consent is pathway, and we can consider both for Oxford and for ocean outfall, and give that consideration. So that's good. We can add that into the scope.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was going to add to Jared's comments. So I'm aware that Christchurch City has got an ocean outfall consent that actually expires a couple of years or so before us. So I think if we were to consider bringing forward ours, I think it would be worthwhile talking to them as well. So I think part of the idea is wait and see what Christchurch lands, where they land with their consent renewal at that time. It will give us a better steer and idea about where we're likely to land as well.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Well, I'll move we accept this recommendation as per the report. I've got a seconder, seconded by Councillor Redman. Just talking this, I think it's something we've got to do. So thank you for this report, and good luck with all your scenarios with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for being late again.
No, hang on, finished yet.
Hang on, class isn't over yet. Thanks for the report too, Caroline. I mean, it is something we've got to do, so it's a wee bit of a no-brainer. And the two options are either upgrade the existing or look at alternatives. And connection to the Eastern District scheme, I note in your report that will include presumably looking at routes both to Kaiapoi direct or to Rangiora. And at the end of the day, I suspect it'll be what we decide as a council is best, which may relate to the financial aspects. And I'm not sure if the Mayor was alluding to it, but whether there is an opportunity to send a pipe over the river to Christchurch, but I guess that's getting outside your scope. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Gordon.
Well, just to clarify from the outset to Councillor Redmond, no, I wasn't proposing that, but what I do think would be worthwhile, given that Christchurch have got consenting, and I think that's a very good point that Caroline makes, is that we are sharing information. They've got challenges in Ekaroa, for instance, and I know they've been considering a wastewater treatment pipe as well, or an ocean outfall there. So there's clearly a lot, and the reason at the time we got a very good tender from McDonnell Dow, who were one of the major which constructed the ocean outfall, was to do with the fact that we had Christchurch coming on as well. So there was some synergies there. I do think that we're getting closer and closer, and I think that that's been a matter that I know Councillor Williams has raised several times. So now is the time we should be contemplating whether it's worth us bringing that forward, or at least factoring that in. Oxford, I have always felt sorry for. I think in the times, the previous, it wasn't this council or our staff, I might add, presently, but a previous council and staff, and I think they really did let the community down out there, in the sense, and I don't think it's necessarily the staff, it was the contractor actually. It's always been a dog of a system that wasn't properly connected. There are instances where we found that there were laterals not even connected properly to properties. And we've spent a lot of money trying to remedy and make the system work. I know that it's functioning as best as it can, and I appreciate all the effort that goes in. But to look at a broader solution and whether it's connecting, whether it's a solution that's out and remains in Oxford, or whether it's a physical connection, is something we need to contemplate, and that's a physical connection to our eastern districts. If we did do that, it enables up opportunities along the way to contemplate Cust and other localities as well. And we only have to look at where ECAN are going, from what I understand in some of the RPS provisions, which I am interested in exploring further, around septic tanks, that there will be potentially some challenges in the future, from what I'm hearing, but we'll need to do our own work on that to understand exactly what that's considering. And when I say whether it's a physical connection, don't actually have to have them physically connected to have them part of a scheme. And maybe it's time, given the level of rating impact that would be out there for particularly a smaller population like Oxford, whether it's time we consider adding them into the Eastern District scheme. But there'd be a range of considerations there, and we'd have to consider that carefully. But having one scheme or one rated scheme across the district is something we have talked of doing, and it's been something we've foreshadowed for a while, that we want to contemplate. So it's timely that this comes up and we can consider that as part of it. But Caroline, can I thank you for the work that you and the team have done preparing these options. There's a lot of work to be done, and I know the community of Oxford particularly will be thankful to know that we are looking at the future of the scheme and how we can resolve that once and for all.
Thank you.
Councillor Thornton?
Just to observe that I think this morning that on the lesson talking about a 30-year pipeline for infrastructure and the way that we build our roads and our sewer systems, water treatment plants. That at national level we tend to be sort of bits of cyclical from government to government. We start-started projects. So one observation for Oxford and the connection to east districts and our ocean outfalls, that this has got already potentially a 15-year horizon. It's sort of something that it's perhaps well worth considering, I believe, in terms of the scope to go into central government. It's got it's our equivalent of building the city tunnel, with all the costs, because it's going to be there a long time. So, I think it's be very valuable if we put it in scope now, because we have a 15-year horizon, but ocean outfall that's going to come around pretty quick. So, thank you for the report, Caroline and your team.
We have no more questions, so I'll put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against. Carried. Thank you, Caroline. We can leave now. And now we move on to 5.2, proposed road and capital works program. And we've got Joanne McBride and Joanne by herself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So this report is seeking approval of the proposed 24-25 capital works program. It also notes the indicative program for the following 3 years. This program has been presented to all community boards, and feedback has been incorporated. That feedback that was received is included under item 5.3. The Road and Capital Works program covers areas which have a general allocation, such as footpath, including channel renewals. It also includes our minor safety program, but excludes our large capital projects, which have their own allocation through the long-term plan. I would note that the budgets assume that NLTP funding will be received. If this is not the case, then we will bring a further report back to Council. I'm happy to take the questions.
Questions? Don't seem to have any questions. Oh, we have.
No, I'd like to move.
Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Bryan. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Joanne, for your report, and I know that there's been a great deal of consultation with community boards and little tweaks here and there, so thank you very much for your work, and good luck for hopefully we can get funding in September to make sure that we can do these projects. So well done, thank you.
Nothing from Councillor Bryan, so question for Councillor Sullivan.
Okay. I'll just thanks, Mr. Chair. Our Oxford lighting deficiencies, is this a particular park that has some lighting deficiencies that reserve in Oxford, or is this wouldn't go far?
No, so this is rolling funding rather than reserves.
Okay.
And when we did the change from the old fluorescent lighting to the new LED lighting, there were some deficiencies picked up in terms of the spacings between poles. We had some dark spots. We've got one road to finish, and otherwise I believe we've actually completed all of those lighting deficiencies in Oxford now.
Okay. Thank you.
Question from Mayor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joanne, I just, pardon me, difficulty getting my screens to connect between this and, but just on the status of the proposed footpath, I heard suggested the other day that the council was pushing ahead with a footpath or the cycleway from where Peck and Savers. The owner phoned me very concerned about that. There was some rumour being speculated. Could you just confirm to me our process in relation to that? I'd just like to have that on the record, please, for the benefit of all members.
Certainly. So that project, the cycleway, was part of the Transport Choices Fund, which that funding was withdrawn. Council has, as part of the National Land Transport Program, we have sought co-funding for the cycleway between Woodend and Ravenswood, but obviously don't know the outcome of that at this time. But we haven't progressed and won't be doing anything behind Pick and Save. And we'll be bringing a further report back to Council in the near future on that once we know the outcome of the NLTP.
So just to confirm, there is no agenda from the council to put in a cycle lane behind Peck and Save. Is that correct?
Definitely not. Got no idea where that would have come from.
So for all elected members present, we'll just be clear that that is the answer. Thank you. The other is in relation to Oxford. Councillor Fulton asked a question. There is my understanding is a linkage from the main street through to the subdivision between the church. It's the subdivision in behind, and there was some concerns around lighting on the footpath there. Just to remind me, you were saying that the lighting deficiencies have been, you think, largely addressed. Has that been picked up as part of that? And I'm sorry for want of a correct location. I'd need to find it. It's roughly around, not far from our service centre. There's a footpath that links that newer subdivision and behind there where I think former Deputy Mayor has a property.
I think I'll go away and get a little bit more information for you, but I understand the Green Spaces team have been having a look at that one. I believe that is a reserve, is that correct?
It links to a reserve, that's correct, yes.
So it wouldn't fall within the normal grading area, which is why I believe Green Spaces have been doing a little bit of work on that, but I can ask for an update back to you now if that's helpful.
That would be very handy. Thanks, Joanne. I'd like to add to the debate, if I may, when the opportunity, Mr. Chair.
Right, so that's been moved and seconded, so we'll put that. All in
Oh no,
favour?
I'd like to speak to the motion, if I may, Mr. Chair.
That's what you were doing, I thought.
Thank you. No, I was asking questions. Thank you. So am I able to speak now?
You can, but we had the first and second, so it wasn't during the debate, so we never picked you up for the question side, that was also carry on.
But there were questions, so just to say that I support this budget. It's unfortunate where we're at in terms of funding, but I appreciate that it's part of a broader package throughout the country. We are rightly ambitious for this district and will continue to be so, and take every opportunity there is in which to present and advocate our case for the investment. I think just for clarity, I wanted to have it on record, and I would appreciate the minute taker if she can make sure that's accurately recorded, that there is no footpath being presently advocated for at Pekingse. There was a rumour going around about that, and I had a phone call from the owner very concerned about that, and I wanted to be clear around that today and asking Joanne that question. Those sort of speculations are unhelpful, and our council is very clear with people when we say we go through a process. We would have, as we indicated, if that funding had remained with the subsidy, which was around 70%, that was the only basis in which that and others were being considered and brought forward to do so. But with a change of government and new priorities, that has been reconsidered, and I want to put on record that I won't support us putting in, under the present financial circumstance, a cycleway there without that level of subsidy and unsubsidised at the present time. We've got to look at all our priorities right across the district, and that's not one for me right at the moment. The one in Woodend and that linkage is important because there is a deficiency and gap, and as members would have heard last week in the briefing, we're hoping some of that will be picked up when they build the new bypass. But I think it's clear at the moment that cycle linkages are not included as part of that. But it doesn't mean that we won't continue to advocate for that, or at the very least ensure that the land is there, and that could be added at a subsequent time. Just want to acknowledge Joanne and the team. They've put a huge amount of work into this, and it must be very frustrating as we're having to flex up and down as funding is confirmed or otherwise. And that's the basis on which the system we operate presently. It isn't perfect. It's broken, in my view, the model, and the alignments are completely out. I am encouraged by the new minister, who is indicating that they would like to move to a 10-year program that would give a lot more certainty. However, the fundamental aspect still remains is that we need funding there, or additional funding, if we're to achieve the aspirations that we all have. Staff have helped prepare, and I'm appreciative of this, which I will share with members. Where are our priorities? What is our story? So when we're having discussion with ministers and senior officials, that the narrative is around the roading projects that we want to see to address congestion and other issues in our district. And Eastern Links Skew Bridge and other things are always high on our list because it's the broader network and addressing that which is important. So just want to thank Jared, Joanne, our comms team for the work that's gone into that, and I will share that with members so you've got a copy of it. You can see the work that's gone in to help us with that broader story. I was finding we had bits and pieces and all manner of documents, but not one that tells the whole story. So that's one that I think will be helpful to us in our advocacy in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also missed whether we're in questions or debate, so I don't have a question, but I'd just like to thank the roading staff and Joanne in particular for this report. I think it's been a good process, and by that I am referring to going around the community boards and letting them see the plans for their areas. And since I go to 2 community board meetings, I get a double dose here. But I think it was a good process, and that some of the feedback has been incorporated in here. I'd also concur with the Mayor's comments regarding co-funding and the impact that will have on future decisions. So there are a lot of unknowns, so we wait and see what may be revealed in the next month or so. And I do get the point that the Mayor said, that it must be frustrating with roading. Not only do you have us councillors to deal with and our particular interests, but you also have the government who turn the tap on and off with funding and do a flip-flop on various things from time to time. So we're all in the same locker, heading in the same direction. So I'm very happy to endorse this report. Thank you.
Councillor Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As members will be aware, because I've said it before, in my previous occupation, I was a frequent user of Southbrook Road on a cycle, and I've said at meetings that as I approach the Packet Save 910 traffic lights, I'd get off my bike if I was heading southeast in particular, get off my bike, walk across the intersection and up to the pedestrian crossing, well it's not a pedestrian crossing, but the safe crossing point near McDonald's before getting back on my bike and travelling up Frankston Road. And I was an advocate for the cycleway around the back of Packet Save. I saw this as a safer option, in particular for cyclists who were not that confident, which is me. But however, I completely agree with the Mayor. If the government are not going to contribute, then it's a nice to have, albeit it's a safety issue, but it's a nice to have. And so I agree with the direction that this report is taking us. But as I say, I heard a comment at the community board meeting last week where we were being questioned about 10,000, well not questioned, but a comment was made about this $10,000 being spent on a road safety message at the cinemas, core council business, and frankly it is. Road safety is a massive issue, and I'm not going to be moved on that, but having said that, as I say, if the government's not going to come in, then so be it, something I wanted, we're not going to have.
Councillor Sullivan.
Just something that occurs to me in the course of this discussion about this report is that if we have government currently that's not going to cut by co-funding for separated cycleways, then are we increasing the risk on our footpaths? What's our traffic stats for traffic actually on the footpath, people cycling? And it's probably just a natural sort of conclusion, but I'd be interested members to actually see some of those sort of those counts. Do we measure that sort of thing? Sorry, that's a question, but
we don't measure how many cyclists use standard footpaths. They're not meant to use a standard footpath, they're only meant to use a shared path. This program itself doesn't include any cycling like that. That was really the transport choices. What that was potentially delivering was more separated shared paths for us. But yeah, so I don't have any stats in terms of the number of cycles that use footpaths. We do have some counts for certain locations around the district, how many cyclists use some of our shared paths and some of our cycle lanes. So I could share some of that with
That was chair for those bits.
I think that would be of interest.
Councillor Ward, sorry, you should have first option of speaking, but you weren't.
It's all right.
Now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just really think that listening to what's happening around the table and the uncertainty of finance coming, additional funding coming from central government, we'll know in September, I would recommend that as a council we look very seriously. There is no footpath from Woodend to Ravenswood or Subway, that I would ask the councillors to really seriously consider, for safety reasons, that even if we don't get funding, we look very seriously at providing that safe passage from Woodend to Ravenswood anyhow, somehow. So that's just my comment, but I will be supporting, as I did say, thank you, Joanne and your team, for the great work that you do in the interests.
Thank you, right. No more speakers, so I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, so now we move on to 5.3, which is Sophie with management.
So this is the report for information, primarily about village management for the past spring and summer season. We do have a small number of properties that are affected by villages at our Woodend and Kaipori waste treatment plant procuring. It does also look at, well, we've also included a report, village management plan that's been updated from a version that was prepared by Beck here in 2017. And also looking at costs for the past year. This approach that we are employing is an integrated management approach where we have multiple ways of trying to control villages, both such as suicide screening, oil. This summer was notable that we trialled BTI, so that's why it's something of interest to note, and also in Kaipori we have a dredging program. So yeah, we're happy to continue communicating with residents about the issues that are particularly useful for giving us feedback on how controls are working and happy to take questions.
Questions? A question for myself, maybe it might be towards Jared or Kelly. I see Kelly's online. In the Kaipori sewage plant, we were going to clear a lower trees out of there and get some natives or some type of trees for the midge protection for those properties around that area. Have we got a time frame when that's going to happen and how it's going to happen? Because it's been, I've been talking about it for the last 5 years and nothing's happened so far. So if we leave it too long, what would be the time frame for those the new trees to grow to stop this midge? So have we got any thoughts on it?
So I have checked with the project lead for that, that's Carl Quedlington. He did say that the first, so that it is going that block on the western side where it's of most interest for midge management. There will be a staged approach where the first block, I think it won't be this financial year, but next financial year the first block will come down and then there will be native planting. And he did reassure me that you did raise a question about whether there would be a period of about 5 to 6 years to allow those natives to grow up before the next lot of fires that are found. And he did reassure me that is still the plan. That we would make sure it was staged so that it was time for the natives to grow up.
Yeah. And the other, one more question for me, does it have to be native planting? Because some of the native planting takes a long time to grow to stop these midges. So I notice in other countries to stop this midge, they're not using New Zealand natives, of course. So should we be looking at something else, other types of trees or plants to stop these midges that other countries use, so which grow quicker to help these properties around that area?
The species that are being proposed by memory are quite fast growing. We do use often coloniser species because you might infill with slower growing podcasts, for example, later. But the ones that are generally usually planted for establishment are your cabbage trees, those things are quite fast growing. So, and they are suitable species for application of insecticide needed, so that there's a surface that you can spray under. And another advantage of natives is that you get them quite easily restoration grade, so slightly smaller. But you can get them in bulk, basically. The nurseries are producing natives quite regularly for so many plantings. It's easy to access, and obviously biodiversity benefits as well from plant species that birds and insect life will be adapted to.
Thank you. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Sophie. I just noted your report 3.4. It's got a graphic description of the bird maggot cycle for any other people who are interested. But given that there hasn't been a large uptick in numbers of avian boxes in cases, does this indicate that the dead birds have been recovered quite quickly and disposed of? So that cycle is not actually escalating, or what is the status there?
Councillor Fulton, I think we're on the report again.
Non-report would do the midges.
Oh, midges, I thought it was the same thing. Well, save it up, think about it.
They are dealt with at the same time with the same political contractors, so there is a lot of synergy.
Thank you, I'm too keen on the maggot cycle.
Introduce that question.
Thank you, very much appreciated.
We'll save that for the next one. Councillor Redmond.
Thanks for the report, Sophie. Is there any reason why those pine trees can't remain as a barrier on the western side of the Kaiapoi plant? Why do we have to replace them?
So as the pine trees age, they become taller and more likely to fall down as a health and safety risk. Also there's the economic advantage of harvesting when they're ready, and those are the two primary options here. You've got health and safety and economic return. So they can't stay for a long, they will eventually start falling down, and you'll have something that's even harder to harvest.
Right. When you referred before about natives and growing, I look at the Woodhead wastewater plant, and on the western boundary here, those natives are very small, and the existing buffer, if you like, has already been removed. So I'm wondering, are there other alternatives, as Councillor Williams suggested, some faster growing species that will provide that filtering effect?
Yes, the Williams site is a lot sandier and a lot drier because of that. So Kaiapoi is the advantage is a bit better and has a bit more topsoil, so things will grow ideally faster at Kaiapoi than Woodhead. Woodhead was put in a bund, so there's that extra height already. That's partially because of the difficult growing conditions in the wind. So things could be slightly different with the Kaiapoi waters. And sorry, we're introducing the gap in the wind. I think there was not fencing and a small gap had to be created in the pine trees. It wasn't a complete removal of pine trees in the wind, but unfortunately a small gap does seem to have affected the amount of midges that have been attracted to the properties beyond their lights.
Thank you. There's no more questions, so is anybody prepared to move? I'll move from the chair, second Councillor Redmond. Thank you for this report, Sophie. I too am really concerned about planting natives all the time. They seem to be a lot slower growing. Even Kaiapoi, I'm born in Kaiapoi, so even the soil down in Kaiapoi is quite sandy in that area as well. I do question about the budget, not till next year, because I believe 5 years ago was talking to our property team about removing the trees and planting them. So we had a budget 5 years ago, so I don't know what's happened to that budget. So has it been used for something else or what have you? But maybe we could have a quick report on that one day coming up. But I said it's a necessary ASAP to mitigate the midges for those people's houses. I've seen some of the photos on their windows, and some of them you can't see through the windows. It's just black with midges. So I think we do have to look after our neighbours and protect them. And so I would like a bit of thought put on trees and whether we can bring that. If that's an existing budget now, bring it forward to get things moving, because the quicker we do it, it's going to take a long time to to grow those trees in that area. So just my thoughts anyway. Okay.
Sorry, just to respond to you. So we did actually put aside budgets for 23-24, so that is available this year for the planting. We're just going through some of the planning for the actual planting process, and so we have been doing some work on that last year already, and the budget's been carried over this year for the actual planting.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you. So, Councillor Ward.
Am I allowed to make a wee suggestion?
Yes, thank you.
Those forums are pretty hardy and grow very quickly and are very good, bulky, leafy. Would they be a consideration to sort of get in there and get established so to sort of help the protection, maybe?
I believe some forums are on the list. I'll need to double check on that.
Get some big trees.
Mayor Gordon.
Just to say, I support the report. We recently had a meeting down on site with Mr. Bate, and it was actually very interesting to have. It's not that I haven't been there before, so we visited the site on a number of occasions actually over the years, but to have a recent look through, and Councillor Williams was present, and I acknowledge Mr. Bates' passion and for that, and he's only really wanting to see what is right. I think his objectives are sound in that regard. I wouldn't want to see us pull things forward if it adds unduly to the work program that our staff have got. And the reason I say that is that every year we're looking at the capital program and works, and that's carefully considered. And so I'm supportive of us doing the works, but as long as it doesn't just unduly add to the work pressures that staff have got. If it's a case of that just being carefully considered, because I'm just well aware of just how much we load on our staff, and then we're critical later of them not delivering the program or concerned about that. So they're the bits that I just have reservations of suggesting that we do things without fully considering that. And in fact, at a recent meeting, we've asked that where we do ask budgets to come forward or those things be considered, that we do adequately consider that and see what the actual effect is, the rating consequence. All these things have an effect when we're bringing them forward. So it's all well and good to be talking about council efficiencies and being efficient. The efficient part of our operation is making sure that our work program is achievable. So they're the bits that I just want to make sure that we're always focused on in that regard. And I know Jared and the team certainly are. So if you just to say thank you for the work that you do, I know that you spend a lot of time responding to requests, but also actively considering, and I was quite impressed actually to understand just the level of work that had gone in at the time, perhaps some things that were put in to achieve broader objectives that were being considered by other partners that may not have necessarily been possibly effective, but were put in because they were relevant considerations and important at the time. So there are a whole range of things that we did when that was being constructed. And as we've just had in our previous conversation around it, just constantly being aware of the things that we need to be doing as a responsible asset owner, are always things that we should have at the forefront. So having you on staff along with our engineering team, I think really makes a big difference. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, as the second in this motion, it's nice to speak. I have reserved my position, I see, till now. Yes, midges. I actually owe quite a lot to midges because I'm here because of midges. In 1975, when purchasing a property, I looked at a property in the Sandylands, Bromley, Bexley type area, and I didn't purchase there because of the prevalence of midges, and ended up purchasing a kaiapoi after checking out the kaiapoi plant to make sure that problem wasn't going to impact on where I was then looking at kaiapoi. And as a result of that, I ended up spending most of my working life in Kaiapoi in North Canterbury, and Kaiapoi Borough Council and Waimakariri District Council in politics. So I was just reflecting that were it not for these midges, I may very well have been living in a different part of the area, and my career may have taken a totally different path. So I do owe a lot to these midges. Not in a, well, it did work out to be a favourable outcome for me, but I'm not a fan of midges personally. So I think it's good that we do have some plans to manage them. But the thing that struck me was 25, what's that, 40, almost 50 years ago, midges were a problem. So they're still a problem. So we haven't actually come very far in that time. So whatever we can do to mitigate the effects on neighbouring properties, I think is very worthwhile. So thank you for your efforts.
Now, just the last comment from myself, seeing Councillor Reid was saying how long midges have been a problem. Should we be looking at the square for different treatments for midges then? If midges are such a problem and we haven't resolved the situation, should we be looking at something different treatments and what else is happening around the country? Just a thought anyway. So that's it all for me, so I'll put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Sophie, for that. And we go now to 5.4. That's Sophie again, and I'll keep in mind that Councillor Fulton has a question.
Loaded up.
Yeah.
So a relation report. Yeah, so Amy Watchlism, she's also reported some information about how the management was for the previous summer season. We had a minor outbreak of Watchlism in the summer in Kaiapoi, so it was about, it was 300 something birds at Kaiapoi, which is what we defines minor, which is, I think, my personal opinion is that it could have, we probably have that control work we've been doing. It could have been a worse outbreak. It was a season of El Nino weather and high temperatures, dry, the kinds of conditions that can see an outbreak. So I would see a minor outbreak as potentially doing a good job. I was going to say my personal opinion. We have also indicated that the management plan, which is from 2020, will be updated shortly. The key update is bird flu, highly pathogenic avian influenza, APAI, is likely to arrive in New Zealand as we're circulating around the world. It hasn't been detected in New Zealand yet. But what's not in the report is that DOC have released some guidelines around what to do in response to the rise in New Zealand. So that's something which the council will be responding to and thinking about how to try and improve our management for avian botulism. So there's a risk to contractors, for example, where it says avian bird flu looks the same as avian botulism to a person, and it's hard to know the difference. And if it does arrive in New Zealand, there is a risk that people picking up dead birds could be exposed to bird flu and picked up. So whereas avian botulism, there's no risk to humans, avian bird flu there is. So we just need to think about management PPE, and if we really needed to restrict access to contractors if there was perhaps any influenza in New Zealand. So those are the key updates, but also looking at a few minor additions which are mentioned in the report. We have had recommendations looking at more prevention measures, but as they are respiratory plants, it's very hard to prevent the key cause of agriculture, which is the fresh inputs of wastewater. So recommendation, for example, to increase desludging. Desludging is often the older material which is not driving that agriculturalism. So it's not known as a control method for agriculturalism that we find. We'll continue to engage with the community and update the management plan. So happy to take questions and just any thoughts.
Questions to Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I noticed in your report you talked about that cycle of dead birds and native marine infections. So how the birds actually disposed of, and how do you think is working to break that cycle?
So we have contractors who are ecologists who know bird species that are able to identify what's going on and know symptoms of agriculturalism. They dispose of the birds into specially prepared bins that are incinerated because disposal of animals is not encouraged, not permitted to general waste. And we have a company called Waste Co who collect the bins and they are sealed before they're taken off site. So it's the general processes that's used for pets, for example. So general animal disposal is safe at high temperature.
Thank you. Question for Councillor Redmond.
Thanks, Sophie. What's the mechanism for notifying perhaps fish and game and game bird hunters of outbreaks? Is there a process for that to happen?
So the process that's been carried out in the past is when we've had outbreaks, even minor, we have I have an email list that I have, for example, the SPCA, concerned residents, people within the council, regular community boards that go in the past, and fish and game, of course. So that when there's an outbreak, that's the list I will regularly send out. Weekly or I think it'd be fortnightly for it's been required. There's no been anything happening, I don't think CPA nothing's happening from. And that's so go through contact fishing game that are in touch with the game hunters.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Fulton. They have other rural type hunters and gatherers to bear in mind. So thanks very much.
Question for Mayor Gordon.
Thanks, Sophie. Partially relates to comments that was made earlier. About a month or so ago, we had a meeting on site with Michael Bate, which I did appreciate going to. There were a few things that were recommended or discussed while we were on site. Can you just update us if you're able to? There are a few recommendations there that were a few things that were to be considered, where we've got to with those, and when likely may they be able to be implemented?
Yes, so there was a recommendation to look into the constructed wetlands and the bypassing of the water other sides. So that's something that has been that's part of an investigation already into the functioning of the wetlands in general, and that will be a report that will come this financial year and be circulated to Michael. But we don't know at the moment what the outcome of that discussion will be, but we'll consider that. We've also informed Michael about the desludging budgets that currently exist, and we are still identifying which areas they will be used for. So Michael has recommended an area passed on to the wastewater asset manager. And we've also had a discussion about control of agriculture and whether prevention is possible through desludging, and that's something that I haven't found any other wastewater operators wastewater resource managers who have been looking at desludging as a way of aiding botulism management. So like I said, it's the concern with the fresh material coming in, which is a wastewater treatment plant, we're not able to prevent that's its function.
So you just wonder, with those points that were made, and thank you for confirming they're being investigated, is there a way that you can bring that back as part of one of your reports back, just so we don't miss those? I just keen to make sure that we have followed those up, as you're saying we are, and what the actions and where we eventually get to with those, because Michael obviously puts a lot of time into this. I just want to make sure that we are honouring those things we said we would do.
Yeah, I can pass on to there are two people in PU who are leading that project, but I'll work with the asset manager to come with that request.
Thanks. Thanks, Sophie.
Thank you. Councillor Cairns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Effectively, my question's been answered already in terms of I was deeply concerned of the 431 deaths of the birds until I started to see your graph, Sophie, was showing that over 5,500 birds were dying in the 2014-2015 year. And so you've already answered the question by me, Dan, so thank you for that. Let's hope that it gets resolved in terms of or reducing the number of birds being killed. Thank you.
And a question for myself, and before I do that, I'd just like to note that Michael Bates is sitting in the back of the chambers here, and I know he's very, very passionate about the subject and all of our wastewater problems we have. So I'd like to thank Michael for his time he puts into it, and effort and passion. So I can see that if everybody did that, we'd have a better place to live in the world. So just like to acknowledge Michael. So thank you, Michael. Following on from Mayor Gordon's situation, Michael did mention in that walk around we had about the sludge around the edges. Will that be part of the report of, is that sludge worse than the effect of botulism or what have you? Have we looked into that?
I don't believe it's part of the scope at the moment, looking at with sludge, whether there's any literature about the effect of sludge and wetlands. What I believe is part of the scope, I'm sure it's part of the scope, is looking at whether some areas, whether the wetland area can be reduced, which may then remove some of that sludge by reshaping the ponds too. So that is something that is within the scope of what's being reviewed.
Thank you. So we've got a mover of Councillor Ward, and we've got a seconder on this, which is Councillor Bryan. So Councillor Ward.
Thank you for this report. I just want to say that we do really need to acknowledge that with the improvement in our waterways and the focus on vegetation around our waterways, that the bird life has increased greatly. So we can expect to see more birds die off. And I have to say a big thank you to the staff. There was a dead bird that arrived just by a pathway where we walk our dogs off Norfolk Road, on the green there, on the Kuru Park there. And when a service request was given within 12 hours, that was all cleaned up. It was very much appreciated because it was right by the pathway where the dogs walk and often free run. And so I really want to say that the service was amazing and we really appreciate that. So happy to approve of this recommendation in this report. Thank you very much.
Brian, I think just a comment from myself. All of our sewage ponds are where all our wastewater ends up at, and we do have some not so nice things happen there with botulism and midges and etc. So I look really forward to getting this report on particularly the botulism, because we've got to look after some of our birds and what have you around. And I just again like to thank Michael for his input into what he does for our community in this sense. Thank you. So I'll put that, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Right, so we move on to 6. Thank you, Sophie. We move on to 6, which is correspondence, which I have nil. So we'll move on to 7, portfolio updates. So we've got roading. Councillor Redmond, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
This comes round really quick. I better talk really fast.
Yes.
Renettling is continuing on our unsettled roads. 26 roads around the district are being metalled during the last June and July. Maintenance grading is also underway, and unsettled roads are being inspected by staff. Drainage maintenance and culvert renewals have been continuing. Drain cleaning is underway in Tua Fire Road, Cones Road, Lowbird Terrace Road, Rossiter's Road and Forestry Road, and culvert maintenance has been carried out on School Road in Horrellville, Hawthorne News and Wellington Street. Work is about to begin on pre-reseal repairs ahead of the forthcoming reseal season as we're getting into better weather. There have been, and I don't know who counts these, but 299 damaged or missing edge marker posts have been replaced over the last month. The Eyre River Bridge on Depot Road has had the rail repaired, and the Swamp Road Bridge in Cust has had repairs carried out to the abutment. There have been a number of incidents with mud on the road which staff have followed up, and this is likely to continue at the moment with the wet weather we've had. Capital, the focus has moved to design for the current financial year. However, works which have assumed co-funding through the NLTP are not proceeding past design until such time as the outcome of the NLTP is known, likely to be next month. Other works, there's been a water, stormwater and sewer main through Blackett Street, King Street roundabout. The work at the roundabout is now complete and the roundabout has reopened. There's a focus on trenching along Blackett Street between Good Street and King Street. And Blackett Street is closed in the westbound direction from Good Street to King Street. Durham Street and Good Street, the remainder are open. That's caused minor changes to bus detour routes, which has been agreed with ECAN. And businesses are being updated as the work progresses. Signage advising businesses are open has also been provided to help them. Lineside Road stormwater work is planned, with ducting to go across the road near the MPD petrol station. A one-night southbound closure is proposed and businesses will be notified. Excess bitumen around Skewbridge Road, Grandeur Woodhead Road, Gold Street Road and Golf Links Road is being removed with either night works or some works during the daytime. There are a couple of events coming up. The Logan 39 Road Relay Race on Saturday the 7th of September, and Canterbury Rugby playing at the showgrounds on the 1st of September. And finally, road safety. There will be a Kickstart motorcycle event, which is an annual collaboration with Christchurch City, Selwyn and ourselves, and that will be occurring on the 22nd of September. So that's it from me. How's my 2 minutes?
Just over, but we'll thank you for that report. During the weekend, I was down taking some pictures of some culverts on Max Wallace Place, which I noticed were very, very rusty. Do you know if that's been looked into?
No, I only saw those photos at the weekend and commented on the rust. Maybe that's something.
So maybe that can be noted to look at the culverts. They look very, very rusty on Max Wallace.
We do reline culverts, and the lining around the water's edge they get very rusty.
Yes, happy to do that. I can raise a service request on that. So there was culverts at Next Wallace.
the double culverts.
Okay, fine. Yep, happy to do that.
Thank you.
It may just be superficial.
Right, so I'll move on to drainage, stock water, three waters, which is myself. So water, the works to install the 450 water main in Blackett Street is going well. The section in the King Street Blackett roundabout is installed and the roundabout is now open. The carrier pipe and water main under the railway line near the toy library has been successfully installed. The works to install the remaining sections will be ongoing until early December. Staff have been working closely with business owners to keep them informed and minimise as much disruption as possible. The water regulator visited Pegasus water treatment plant site early this month. We expect to receive a report on the Pegasus water supply and chlorine exemption application in the incoming months. Wastewater. The sewer system performed very well during the rain event over the weekend. We deployed sucker trucks to Cridlin Street West and Ahoka Road. However, there was no reported issues or overflows from the network, so that's very encouraging. The drainage, Combs Road drainage is complete and performed very well during the rainfall event over the weekend. Several photographs were taken during the event and staff will consider whether further modification to the weir are warranted. And that was whether one more board needed added to it, which has been suggested by the locals and what have you. So I think that's important, but it's all been positive comments from the public on that Combs Road, so that's really good. Drainage improvement works are underway across the district at Washington Place, Tram Road and Woodfields Road. The Green Road Division upgrade works in Tuahiwi is programmed to commence in September. During the wind event early last week, several trees along the North Rock fell and damaged a nearby residential dwelling. The trees have been removed and the bank has been repaired. Work is underway to repair the path and plant out areas with natives. A wider inspection will be undertaken to ensure that there are no other risk trees that need to be addressed. And that's all for me. Any questions? Councillor Fulton.
Thank you. I'm just noting the weekend's weather snow effect on groundwater tables. Can we have an update on our groundwater levels? I know they're nothing like what they were this time last year, but the Eyre River has been flowing out the top just periodically in the last couple of weeks. So just sort of a good treatment.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll ask Kelly to give us an update.
Yeah, just to keep in mind.
The last upgrade I had was just before the weekend, and we're very low on the ground uptake, so we'll just interested to see what happens. Thank you.
Do we have any statistics about how much rainfall we had on Saturday, Sunday? Was it a significant event?
It's about a cap of, according to my rain gauge at home. But I think the figure I was given was something in the order of 50 to 60 millimetres, which is, it's not really that significant. That's before it snowed. We managed to contain the wastewater network in Kaiapua, and there's an area in the Western Cridlin Street area that we keep a particular careful eye on. We've got sucker trucks there proactively, so we didn't have any overflows. The snow, of course, we had some just issues in terms of roading there, but all in all it was a reasonably manageable event. You inevitably get some surface flooding in the urban areas in an event like that where that just kind of comes and goes, but certainly all of our stormwater systems coped as we would have expected.
just to add a wee bit to my report, I went down and checked Threckles Road the other day with, yesterday with staff, and the train and old Threckle Road's all been cleaned out and looking pretty promising, and they're going to be looking at what improvements they can do in that area to stop that flooding in that particular area, because there was a wee bit more water lying in Threckles Road area at this stage. Thank you. Councillor Bryan, solid and waste.
Planned maintenance of the rubbish pit floor will be carried out. At the end of the month to renew a portion of the pit floor that's reached the end of its life. This will impact on rubbish operations, with work starting on Thursday evening and the pit being closed on Friday and Saturday to allow time for the concrete to cure. The decision has been made not to accept general rubbish for those 2 days owing to health and safety concerns and delays to customers who would have to use part of the green waste drop-off area for rubbish disposal. The rest of the site will be open as usual, and we will still accept WDC branded bags in the recycling area. We will have capacity to store rubbish from the smaller commercial collectors, Sally's, Cord, Delta and Karaki Beach camp. They usually come on Friday. We'll hold the rubbish in skips and load it into the compactor once the pit is open again. The cost for us to send a large number of skips of uncompacted rubbish from all of the other customers to a Christchurch-based transfer station to be compacted will be substantially higher than the revenue received from those customers. We will not be accepting rubbish from other customers on Friday and Saturday. We have arranged with Eco Central to send our own collection trucks to the nearest Eco Drop at Sticks Mill on Friday. As far as communication is concerned, staff have advised Waste Management Commercial Services of the closure, and advised them that they will have to take their rubbish to an alternative site Friday and Saturday. Solid waste staff will call the companies and organisations who will accept rubbish from to advise that they can still use the site on Friday. There will be a news story posted on the website early this week. Signage will be erected at the site in several places to advise of the upcoming closure. Handouts will be given to customers over the next 2 weeks. Social media posts will be made to lead up to a closure with a link to the news story. We'll advise about pit closures and community notice board for the next 2 weeks. Kitty and I went out at 8 o'clock this morning to Southbrook. We got some pictures taken, and I'm trying really hard to get something in the newspaper. Obviously, a Friday and Saturday closure of the pit will have an impact. I did ask Kitty about the potential cost for this repair. She's been looking at about $50,000, and we could see the steel coming through in the pit floor. $50,000. She does have that $50,000. However, she's going to be using it from her road maintenance area, and I did point out that the access road is not the flashiest either, with some pit holes starting to show. Staff met with Tyre-Wise representatives on Thursday to talk through the last details of the new product steward scheme for tyres. We've registered Southbrook as a collection point. Since the 1st of March, tax has been levied on all vehicle tyres entering the country, and as from the 1st of September, we'll be able to accept all vehicle tyres at no charge. Their removal will come at no cost to the council. We receive a small payment to cover handling and administration costs. However, we can't accept tyres that are still on ribs. These will be taken to registered garages and tyre companies, and there should again be no disposal charges there. The tyres will be tracked and ensured they're deposited at a registered processing site. We will be sent information pamphlets next week. These will be available to customers to take away. After being advised of a lot of issues by collection staff with bins being placed too close together under trees and so on, staff have a bin placement handout created to include the information pack when new bins are delivered. We will be trialling some placement lid stickers with the aim of these being placed on the lids of new bins. We're aware that there will be some areas where infill has made it very difficult for residents to put their bins out in a way that makes for efficient collection, but hope to reduce the delay in collections from drivers having to get out of the truck to move bins and empty them. Oxford Transfer Station was closed on Sunday around 2:45. Snow was becoming an health and safety concern for a contractor. staff would have had to drive back to Rangiora. At the end of the day, it was uncertain if that would be safe to do so. Very few customers were coming through the site owing to the snowy condition. Messages were posted and sign put up to advise. Just not in the report is Transwaste and the joint landfill meetings that I reported on in the previous meeting. We did disburse the $112,000 by way of grants to, I think it was 5 recipients. That sum has been increased for the next budget round because it's population based up to 120. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, we had applications in excess of $335,000 for the $112,000. Of more import is Transwaste. They're coming up to 20 years. The board is doing a governance review of the agreements that were put in place 20 years ago, and at this stage it's in committee, and that doesn't include me. The board have engaged a consultant to work with them to come up with some recommendations that are going to be put at the AGM, which is the 28th of November. I expressed some concerns, that I don't know what's being considered, and there are some things that as a shareholder I've been flexible on. For example, the agreement that if Waste Management were to be unable to fulfil its obligations, Waste Management's assets become the council's assets, so that a continuation of service. So there were some things that I've been flexible on, but not knowing exactly what's being discussed is difficult. I can advise that as of this morning I got an email, because I've advised them of the dates that I was overseas, that they have put together a briefing workshop session on the 20th of September, which is 2 days before I go overseas. So hopefully all will be revealed on that Friday session. Obviously I'll send Jared any concerns, and likewise Dan's any concerns that I have with regard to any potential proposed changes. I'm assured by our 2 board reps, Jamie Goff and Grant from Selwyn, that there's nothing too radical in it. The proof will be in the reading on the 20th. So that's it from me, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Sorry, I've gone over 2 minutes.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? Right, so we'll move on to
I have a question, Mr. Chair. Just to thank you, Robbie, for comprehensive update, in particular around Transwaste. I realise you're our vehicle there. If there's any support, do you think you need any further support on those matters more broadly from the council? Or will you let us know post the 20th if there's anything that you feel that we're at risk of that needs a broader voice from the council?
I did make it very clear. John Buchan was heavily involved in the creation. John Buchan is a lawyer, former Canterbury rugby captain, but he was instrumental with Dennis O'Rourke in setting up the original agreement. I did ask if he was still practising, and the indications are that he was. And I said, look, if I find fish hooks, I would be looking to seek legal advice or guidance, but that would have to, the other shareholders would have to agree, because obviously that would come at a cost. So I've tried to make things pretty clear that I don't know what the changes are, and if they're going to be too radical, I may not, on your behalf, be too happy with them, but I won't know until the 20th.
Thank you, Robbie.
Okay. Transport Mayor Gordon.
Firstly, I'd just like to offer my thanks, as has been indicated. Staff, I think our contractors in particular did a fantastic job at the weekend, just making sure that our district was well looked after. I think the alerts that went up on Facebook, which were more broadly around Canterbury as well, around people being safe and just taking care on our roads, are important. I went out and had a look around myself and was pretty impressed with how things were operating. In particular, I did go and have a look at the level of flow coming through the Cones Road, and that was an impressive level of flow actually, and you can see, I think from what I observed, that quite a difference there, and as has been mentioned by Councillor Williams, obviously something that we'll keep an eye on, and whether there's some further tweaks needed. It's not until you have events like this that solutions that it's all well and good to do the engineering modelling, but it's not until you have events that you actually test whether that's working. But it appeared to me to be functioning much better than perhaps in the past, and that those changes hopefully will make a difference. So just to place my thanks for that. There is I did ask in our transport catch up last week with Councillor Redmond, there is a more strategic discussion going on around Cranford Street and the bus lane that is there presently, or bus priority during peak times. So we discussed that with Jared and Joanne, and the product of that is a workshop, I think today at UNR, the conclusion of UNR, just to seek some guidance so we can make a submission on that. I think it's important that our voice is known in that discussion, given the importance of all the work that we have done more broadly for Park and Ride and other things related to the Northern Corridor. I was asked to go out to Fernside School on Friday, which I did. It's just to observe how the car park is operating there, and I have set up a time with staff to follow that. There are concerns from the principal and the just on some of the operation of that. So I'll raise those with staff to get that looked into. So Peter Daly, I know I've got a catch up coming up with Shane Binder and others about that, and our green space, because the operation of that falls in green space as well, I understand. So I'm just following that up. There were, from what I observed, I can understand the concerns there, but I do note that we have spent a considerable amount of money, resource on that, and how good that is looking compared to when I first came onto council and was on the Fernside Hall committee. What a transition it's been from an old bits of, well, it was full of potholes and everything else. So the school is appreciative of what we have there, but just see some changes would make a difference. So I would be happy to raise those with staff more broadly. So apart from the usual conversations which are going on around transport related matters, I have nothing further to report at this point.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions, right. So we'll move on to matters of information. We've got one there, 8.1. I'll move to receive the report. Second on that. Second by Councillor Redmond. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Got no questions on standing orders. Urgent general business. I'd just like to raise one wee matter. We're going to have a deputation by Gareth Free. Obviously he hasn't come, but I'm just wondering whether we could, see Joanne's here and Jared's here, we could